If you were in a hospital setting, you would just schedule a nurse appointment or a tech appointment, and the pet would come in and get a blood draw. And then you'd call them with the results and be like, oh, your medication's right, or your medication's wrong. Let's change the dose. So for veterinary hospitals that don't have enough capacity to meet their nursing needs, or for people who are very busy, who can't sacrifice that, let's say that hour to 2 hours to bring their pet in just for a blood collection, then I come to the house, I collect the blood, and then I deliver it to the hospital or drop it at a place that will deliver it.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the House Call Vet Cafe podcast. I'm Dr. Eve Harrison. I'm a full-time integrative concierge house call veterinarian in Los Angeles, and I help other vets to build their unique mobile practices on their terms. This podcast is for and by house call and mobile veterinarians, so it is meant to give our community a platform to connect, to share our stories, to lift each other up, and to support each other. Most of us work solo as lone wolves, right? So for me, it's been really powerful to be able to physically hear the voices of my colleagues from all over the world and to get a chance to feel that we truly are part of a community of very real other human beings who get it. While you may be alone in that little bubble of your own vehicle when you're on the road seeing patients, I welcome you to join our community by tuning into our own podcast when you're on your way to your next house call. Whether you're a super experienced house call vet with 30 years of experience, you're a brand new prospective house call vet just looking to get started, or you're house call curious, there will be something for you in this podcast. Each episode, you will hear interviews from other mobile veterinarians just like yourself who are doing unique and innovative things, vets who are sharing their stories, their struggles and challenges, and you can also look forward to hearing valuable information and perspectives from specialists and experts outside of our micro niche. And finally, if becoming a house call veterinarian is something that you've been thinking about exploring, or you're looking for some extra support getting your own mobile practice to feel more profitable and sustainable for you, check out the information in the show notes about my course and our above and beyond supportive private community for members only, plus our monthly group coaching sessions within the House Call Vet Academy. You can also check out my free public Facebook group, which is also called the House Call Vet Cafe, the same name as this podcast, and which is a warm and cozy community for mobile vets to support each other in professional and personal development, in creative entrepreneurship, and in friendship. So thank you guys for spending time with me today. Let's dive into the episode. Hey guys, we have an awesome guest today. We have Lory Ventura with us, who is the founder of Pet Pal LA. So this is a business in Los Angeles established in 2017 and provides nursing and tech services in the home for people. So I'm really excited to have her on the show. Lory is a wife, a mother. She's the breadwinner of her family and a veterinary nurse. She was born and raised in Los Angeles, California by her Cuban father and Guatemalan mother, who were also both small business owners. She is a first-generation Latin American woman striving to have an impact on the veterinary medicine industry and on the lives of pet owners and their fur babies locally and nationwide. All of her life, Lory has a deep-seated passion for companion animals and their needs. She has found helping people keep their four-footed friends healthy and happy very rewarding. Being able to accomplish that in the house call setting has made it even better. Very cool, Lory. Welcome to the podcast. I'm so glad you're here. I love what you're doing, and thank you for the background on what you've been up to.
Thank you for the invite. This is really exciting for me and having this opportunity. It's really great.
Yay, I'm excited to have you here. So I know that as a traveling vet nurse, you are in the car quite a bit. Do you have any snacks that you like to eat in the car?
Snacking in the car in the beginning became a no because it was the whole day. And especially during the pandemic, lonely driving around all alone. So I've had to cut back quite a bit. But there are a couple things that I can never resist, especially when you've got to make that pit stop, grab something easy and then hop on. It's always the limon lays. Those are the best with a green tea. A bonus if you really need a pick-me-up. So, yeah.
Ooh, that
during
sounds
the day.
delicious. I like it. Well, I'm sorry you had to give up snacks in the car.
It just got out of hand.
I can absolutely understand. I've been through phases like that where I was like, oh God, this has to stop.
But yeah, those are excellent snacks. And I think there's something excellent about chips, particularly. The crunch
Yeah.
it goes well.
Yeah, especially with LA drivers.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. So, oh, and we have to talk about LA drivers in a bit. That's a, a good thing to talk about. So, can you tell me a little bit about how you became a house call vet nurse and what your journey was like? You're one of the first few people out there doing this that I've seen in a sort of a formal way, like where you made a proper business and you have all of these certifications. What is it? You're bonded, you're, licensed, this and that,
Insured.
insured. Yeah.
Yeah.
You tick off all the check boxes. So, I'd love to hear about your experience with that.
Yeah. So if you are a vet nurse or a vet tech or a vet assistant, almost all of us in the field have at some point gone to like Mrs. Smith's house and helped her wrangle her cat or, you know, pet sitting overnight, helping a senior give pills to their dog. It always comes around, that you're in a veterinary hospital and somebody's like, can someone visit Mr. Bronson and give the medication? He says he spilled it all over the counter again.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I can go by on my day off or on my way home or something. So I think almost every vet tech has either experienced that or witnessed it. So I was always doing that in some capacity, even when I was like a lowly kennel worker. And then in 2017 or 18, I started working with a mobile internist, a board certified internal specialist. And okay, Brian, here's your cue. But he started this mobile internal medicine business doing ultrasounds, not only in people's homes, but also in vet hospitals. And so we were all over LA, and he would need, as an internist, he would need like recheck blood. But as a doctor, he didn't want to go draw that blood. No, you're a doctor. You don't want to bill doctor hours for that type of follow up. So he would send me. And he really told me, he was like, if you could just go get your business license, your sole proprietorship license, then instead of like having you on the payroll, I can 1099 you. And it's easier for us. It's easier for you. It's just the smarter move. And he was the second veterinarian that had told me that I should start a house call service. A different house call doctor had told me, she had told me that I should do it. And so with everything, I was at a point in my career in vet med where I had kind of outgrown all the clinics that I was at. And there was really no opportunity for growth at those hospitals, which
Yeah.
is what led me into being like an assistant for a private doctor.
Mhm.
And so when he spelled it out, he pushed me in a way that I really needed to be pushed. And I give him a lot of credit. And when I see him, I say it's all his fault. But he really did a lot for me because he told me, he's like, this is where you go to the courthouse and you fill out the papers. And it costs, I think it was like, it costs $72 at the time. And you just get your business license and then you can go from there. And that just got the ball rolling. And from there, as he was designing his business, I was kind of following what needed to be done to make sure that I was staying within the legal parameters of what I was allowed to do, making sure I was always guided by a veterinarian and that I had my insurance, that I had my business license, that I had an accountant. God, that changed everything. I felt
Yeah.
like a serious adult when I had an accountant. Like, been grown up. Yes. Only took into my late 30s.
Yeah.
Um,
I hear that.
but that's really what pushed me into finally doing it because the irony is that my whole life, because I come from small business owning parents, my parents were self-employed. They worked like tooth and nail, 7 days a week, all of my life. People told me, oh, you're so great at blah, blah, blah. You should own your own business. I always pushed back against that. I said, I
Right.
don't want to own my own business. I've seen how difficult it is.
You now.
I don't want to do it. I just want to work for the man. I just want to clock in, clock out, take vacation, have my schedule, leave work at work. And yeah, here I am 5 years later, doing all the things I said I never wanted to do, but doing it the way it needs to be done.
Yeah.
So
Do you feel like it was the right thing for you after all?
yeah, definitely now that I'm here, my goal was to commit to this business for 5 years. to see if it could be like sink or swim. I told myself, I'm going to give it 5 years because every business needs, you can't say, I'm going to try for a year and then make a decision on if we're going to keep trying or not. So I
Right.
said, I'm going to give it 5 years and then see how we're going and then make a decision whether I decide to, I don't know, drop it, quit, and go back to a hospital full time, like go back to being an employee. And now, 5 years later, I could never go back to being a full time employee. I love doing relief at vet hospitals and going in and like working with techs and talking to doctors and learning about new drugs. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know about this. And I love that. That to me is really great. But going back to being a vet tech full time in a hospital, I could not. No way. No way.
Right. Right. I relate to that very much. Like, no one will own me ever again.
Well, and it's just like there's the emotional part of it, there's the stress part of it, there's the dynamics of it, and then the financial part of it, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So just so many different things.
Yeah, I totally hear that. And my path has been fairly similar in certain ways, but I really love that you had good mentorship and vets who encouraged you to do this. I know that there can be some, pushback about techs starting their own business and this and that. And
A
so
lot.
a lot. Yeah. And we'll talk about that in a moment, I'm sure. So I'm really glad that your mentors encouraged you and empowered you to do that and gave you the tools and the experience. So that's really,
Mhm.
really cool. And I remember working with you when I had Dr. Norman coming to do ultrasounds on my patients in the home, and there you were, kicking ass. But so now you have PAL. Can you tell me a little bit about the service and how it works and what you provide? And yeah, just tell me a little about the business that you have.
Pet Pal LA or Pet Pal is a mobile veterinary nursing company. Well, I'm trying to make it as the mobile veterinary nursing company, hopefully, that goes into people's homes and provides services that is, I like to tell people more than a groomer, but less than a vet.
Okay.
So, I'm in that weird zone because your groomer's coming in, giving baths and trimming hair and making Fluffy feel good and pretty. But then I'm coming in and I'm doing things like toenail trims, which sounds very mediocre.
No, it
uh,
doesn't.
But well, to the average pet owner or the average person out on the field,
Yeah.
I'm doing nail trims on cats with ingrown nails or Great Danes that people can't loan in the car. Usually doing that type of service for a lot of cats and then a lot of dogs that don't need a groomer. So like a pit bull never needs a groomer,
Right.
really. Like you
Right.
just hold them in the shower with you and you scrub them up and they're clean and they're dry in 2 minutes and it's fine. But toenail trims and like anal gland expressions, these are the two main services that are on the low end of our spectrum, like the simple services that we provide that most pet owners go to the vet for.
Mm.
Because at a grooming facility, they can never get you in for just nails because they're busy. And a mobile grooming service will not show up just for a nail trim, no matter how big your dog is. And they won't do it for a cat. They absolutely will not.
See? Okay.
Um, and then for anal gland expressions, groomers do it externally. And a
Mhm.
lot of these dogs need it done internally, like a vet nurse or a veterinarian would do it.
Right, right.
So these services are like the simple ones that I provide that clients find very helpful because you don't have to put your cat in the carrier and drive them down. You know, you don't have to schlep your big dog
Right.
or several dogs. Once you've got more than one dog that needs these basic services and somebody's coming to you to take care of it, it's way more convenient. So then from there, we offer things all the way up to medical services that include blood collection. So if, a lot of people who have dogs and cats with chronic issues like thyroid disease or renal disease or Cushing's and stuff like that, or anemia, things that you as a veterinarian, like to monitor thyroid disease, you don't need to see the pet in a month, like physically. It's not necessary. If you were in a hospital setting, you would just schedule a nurse appointment or a tech appointment, and the pet would come in and get a blood draw. And then you'd call them with the results and be like, oh, your medication's right or your medication's wrong. Let's change the dose. So, for veterinary hospitals that don't have enough capacity to meet their nursing needs, Or for people who are very busy, who can't sacrifice that, let's say that hour to 2 hours to bring their pet in just for a blood collection, then I come to the house, I collect the blood, and then I deliver it to the hospital or drop it at a place that will deliver it to the laboratory or something like that. And then I collect blood pressures. I really feel that that is like the most valuable service I provide veterinarians with directly, because blood pressure in hospital is artificially elevated. White coat syndrome is real.
Yes.
And and now that I've been doing this for 5 years, I can prove it. Like, I have documented evidence. I just did one, like, a month ago where a 2-year-old dog, its blood pressure was 240 at the vet's hospital.
Yeesh.
And we're dealing with a couple of other issues with this dog, including potential epilepsy and syncope. And then we've got him, like, shaking in his boots at the vet hospital. So they asked for me to come to the house and do a blood pressure. And even though he was this dog still, and I provide this information in the report that I submit to the veterinarian that states, like, this dog was still super anxious at home and wouldn't sit next to me and would not take a treat from my hand. I had to drop the treat and take a step back, and then he would eat the treat. And the way we got to take his blood pressure was with him, mind you, this is a 40-pound dog, laying across mom's lap, mom hugging him, and then me sitting on the floor. I'm always on the floor, sitting on the floor next to the couch, taking the blood pressure reading. And the blood pressure reading at home was 116.
All right.
116
Yeah.
compared to 240
Yeah.
plus at the vet hospital. And so being able to rule out hypertension as a cause of the syncope or the cause of the epilepsy is just incredible, especially when we're dealing with a lot of other medications. And you, as the doctor, you're already prescribing all these other medications, but if you're going to throw in a blood pressure medication on top of it, how are they going to interact? How is this going to affect the dog's quality of life? How's it going to affect the people's quality of life if they have to, like, give all these medications at different times, kind of thing? So the blood pressure thing it's really like the most impactful service when it comes to my relationships with veterinarians. And I've got some vets on, like, speed dial where they send me a referral and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go visit Toby today. I'll call you when I leave. And then I'm getting in the car and giving them a buzz saying, like, okay, blood pressure was 162. I'll send you a report tomorrow. But at least then they know when they're following up or when they're doing something, like, they don't have to wait on that report, you know, in that kind of stuff, hospital. So, and then the other services that we offer are in-home medication administration, which varies from pilling dogs and cats, which some people just can't do. Like, no matter how hard you try, they can't or they won't. So they're happy to pay for somebody to do it because their only other option is to put them in the car and take them into the vet every day and have the vet tech do it. And then giving subcutaneous fluids,
Yeah.
which is not something that people love doing, to the point clients have pushed back on subcu fluids so much over the years that veterinarians now hesitate to prescribe it because they don't want that conflicting conversation with the client. I'm really seeing that. And makes me sad because subcutaneous fluids can be so life-saving.
Yeah.
And then I have expanded my services to teach people how to do these things because in-home services can get really pricey really fast. If that visit is happening every single day, that's going to add up for the client.
Yeah.
And not everybody has an unlimited bank account.
Right.
So I offer consultations to people to teach them how to give subcu fluids, how to give insulin when they get a new diabetic. I've taught people how to express anal glands in their
Really?
home. Yeah.
Well, you're brave. I wouldn't go that far.
Well, this particular person was taking their dog in every 2 weeks. The dog has a chronic issue, and she just wanted to be able to know, is this something that needs veterinary attention or isn't? And it's her pet, and she had watched a bunch of videos. She had already, like, she was very invested, and she just wanted more help. And I was the only person who said, yes, I'll teach you. but I've done toenail trim lessons so that people can learn how to trim nails
Mhm.
on their puppies and kittens, ear cleaning lessons.
Mhm.
I think I did for a whole family how to give pills because the whole family was taking turns on giving this one cat its pills. So I taught the whole family. And then they don't need me anymore.
Right.
You know, they can call me when they get stuck or they can call me when they travel. And either myself or a member of my team, because now I do have a team, can come out.
Mhm.
But I really encourage people to learn to do these things. And if they don't want to do it, like some people have taken the lesson for sub-Q fluid administration. And then like a week later or 2 weeks later, they call me and they're like, I can't do it. And I tell them it's okay. Like I'll be there. No problem. We'll figure it out. And then between their finances and veterinary recommendations, we find a compromise that works,
Mhm.
and it doesn't have to be all or none.
Yeah.
Like, yes, your veterinarian wants your cat to get fluids every other day. I understand that. But your budget only will allow for one visit a week, and you think you can do it once a week, right? So, okay, so once a week, I come, once a week, you do it. And then if you have the energy for the bonus round, then maybe you take Charlie to the vet hospital and they do it. So, because that's a little bit more affordable. And, you work with what you got.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be all or none, and it doesn't have to be black and white.
I love that. I've always been impressed with your sort of like thinking outside the box and attention to detail when it comes to innovation and compromise, and even sort of like your focus on accessibility. I think, just making it accessible. If people can't afford it, like, well, we have to do something.
Mhm.
So it's really great how you do that. And I've always admired that about you. So congratulations on that. It's really cool. And, something else that you really excel at, it was a lot of things actually, but you have a really excellent sense of like branding and marketing. I've always been like, wow, you're really on it with this. And now that I know that you're, come from a small business background with your parents, growing up watching that, that makes sense. And also just like your general business ownership sense has always been like, wow, that's pretty good. My goodness. Can you tell me a little bit about the process of developing those sort of senses that you seem to have? And if you have maybe any advice for people about marketing and branding?
Yeah, branding is something that I saw the success and failures of doing it right in my own family because my family owned a very small Cuban bakery that was established at the same time as the famous Porto's was. So if you've been to LA, you've heard of Porto's. And now, oh my God. So Porto's is being put into Disneyland, downtown Disney.
Oh,
Like, that's huge. It's
yeah.
giant.
Yes.
And so my family's bakery was legit less than a mile away from Porto's. And Porto's and us, we were established within the same year. My father knew Papa Porto's and they got started together. The only difference between our bakeries was that Papa Porto did something different. And if you've been into that bakery, you see the branding. It's on the box, it's on the napkins, it's on the bag, it's like stamped into the pastries. It is something that you just recognize as who they are. And if you look at other brands across commercial sales, there are things that you recognize, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Nike, Louis Vuitton, like all of these products, people don't purchase them because, they need a Louis Vuitton. They don't purchase a nylon.
Louis Vuitton. I
Yeah.
do.
Girl,
Girl.
please. Essential, totally. But people don't pay thousands of dollars for a nylon bag because it's a bag. They pay for that branded
Mhm.
look.
Mhm.
And they know that with that brand, they're getting a standard product that is reliable and consistent and recognizable across the board. So when I established PAL, which originally was Pet Assistance by Lory, and has now been rebranded into Pet Pal LA right now, with the opportunity, hopefully, for more growth into other cities. But I really wanted a name that when you were a veterinarian in a hospital struggling with a situation like, oh my God, Mrs. Johnson cannot get her pills into her cat. Instead of yelling into the treatment area to see if one of your employees can go and risk their fingers off the clock without insurance,
Yeah.
pilling this aggressive cat in a house, you can say, you know what, let's call Pal. We know that Pal can do it. Let's see if Pal's available and just give Mrs. Johnson Pal's information and see if they can handle it. And then you're taking it out of your hands. You are providing a referral to the client, but it's up to the client to follow through, and it's no longer your responsibility, but you have peace of mind knowing that somebody will be there. And that's something that's really important to me as a brand, that people know that we are reliable. But going back to your question about why I put such a focus on it, that was my main motivation. And I wanted it to be clear. Like, so now my team, everybody has a uniform. We are recognizable. My emails and the way that we communicate with people has a certain feel to it.
Mhm.
My reports are standardized. We have like letterhead and that kind of stuff because it causes a veterinarian to take note. I would hope. I would think that when you see my report, you look at it and you're like, "Oh, this is legit,"
Mhm.
you know,
Yeah, of
versus,
course.
versus like a random email that says, "Hey doc, I went to see Charlie at his house and his BP was 144. Have a great day." You know? Yeah, it's versus the reports that I send that collect a history and that give you medical, like what medications are they giving and all that kind of stuff. All that information is in there and it's all in a format that's very familiar to you. So
Mhm.
just like you would get a report from a specialty hospital, my reports are standardized and branded so that they're recognizable as something that is reputable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you do a great job with that. And thank you for kind of explaining your thinking behind that and the thought process behind it. That's great. And I think that will be really helpful for a lot of our listeners to hear as well, that branding is absolutely important. And it's the
Really.
difference between, like having your Cuban bakery hang out here in LA or, go to Disneyland or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, my family's business did survive for 40 years, and my parents were in business even past my father's death. My mother kept the bakery running. Even to that point, we were considered a successful business, and a lot of people would remember Buena Vista Bakery,
And
but
the bakery. That's awesome.
it didn't compare to what our competitor did.
Mhm.
What we want is whenever either a client, a pet owner, or a veterinarian says, man, I need help with this problem, I want them to think we should call Pal.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Mhm.
and that's the goal.
Yeah, some of it's subliminal messaging, some of it it's like not proper subliminal messaging, but it's beyond the conscious thought process. That's like these colors, this look, having everything kind of packaged nicely and consistently. It gives consumers, clients a sense that they can't explain why, but there's a
Mhm.
trust, right? When you brand
Yeah.
appropriately and you market well, that happens, and
Well,
it,
if
it's
you
meant
look in vet med about the brands that have been successful and the colors and their logos, I mean, there's a reason why so many veterinary hospitals, their logos and their uniforms are all blue. It's definitely something that has been proven to be successful. And their icons and their logos are very, very simple. And I had to reach out for help. I had to pay people to design my logo
yeah.
because I'm not somebody who's just going to be happy with something simple, but I needed it to be simple. We weren't selling the product to me. I'm not selling my company for me. I need my logo to be something that other people are going to see and be curious about.
Yes.
My logo is a little house with a heart and a paw. So I would think it would be self explanatory, hearts, and paws, and in the house, house calls and we care
Right.
about animals. But I also wanted veterinarians to look at my logo and take me seriously versus I've seen pet sitters and other, vet nurse people who have tried to do this mobile stuff, and they have these very eccentric type logos. And Pet Pal LA, like I mentioned, it was originally Pet Assistance by Lory, and I didn't come up with that business name. It was 6 friends in a group text one night, and I was like, "All right, people, I'm starting a business. Like, all right, here I need a business name." And one of my friends recommended something insane like Lori's Magical Mobile Animal Menagerie Services. And like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, I'm not a traveling circus.
That's
And they're like, but you're magical with animals and you love Harry Potter. And I was like, yes, I get that. But could you imagine no veterinarian would ever take me seriously?
I
You know,
would. I would take you more seriously than anyone.
magical menagerie. All right, we want her.
Yes.
Um, But yeah, the biggest goal, because the biggest challenge was to have a serious brand so that veterinarians would trust me because I can get clients to trust me. That's not a problem. Once a pet owner sees that I have compassion for their pets and I really want to help them, they trust me. But it's the veterinarians who I need to trust me because they're the ones who are either going to advocate, like they're either going to say, "Oh yeah, she's great. Go ahead and give her a call." Or they're going to say, "This person is a like crazy person. We don't trust her, you know." You really are the ones who are going to make or break my future, you
Right.
know?
Right. Right. I understand
And
that.
so yeah, and that was the motivation behind like the colors and it doesn't have a bunch of colors. It's not yes, yes, it's purple, but it's not super girly and it's not super masculine. It's just trying to appeal to everybody.
Yeah, I love that. You bring up some really, really good points. In the House Called Vet Academy, a common pitfall is that people want to have a very complicated or long name that means a lot to them, but doesn't speak clearly and succinctly and impactfully towards their target audience.
Mhm.
Their logo is like very ornate and detailed, beautiful, but for marketing purposes, simple, impactful, and straightforward, easy to look at. You know exactly what you're looking at right away. Like you kind of mentioned some of the big brands like Nike's the classic. It's a
Mhm.
check. There's nothing else. It's very
Mhm.
anywhere what that means. Not
Yeah.
that I'm a fan of Nike, but they know marketing very
Yeah,
well.
they know marketing. And they have different versions of their
Right,
logo that still resonate,
right, right.
with people. And when my friends one of my friends presented Pal, okay? And I was like, well, she didn't say Pal. She said Pet Assistance by Lori. And I was like, that's lame. That's stupid. Come on. Can we make it any more obvious? Like, and she's like, that's what you want. And she's not in the vet med industry. None of the people who were in this chat were in the vet med industry.
That's good. That's a good focus group, isn't it?
Yeah. And then
Good.
for me, what I really wanted was something that was short and rememberable because in the vet med world, we don't talk about each other as animal critical care, specialty. We don't say all of that. We say access, we say VSV, we say ASG, we
Right.
say VSEC.
Right.
That's how we talk about each other in professional,
Yeah.
you know, if you read my reports, when we send each other communications, it's all abbreviated. My husband tried to read one of my reports, like P was ANX and V on the bed yesterday, and then had 2 instances of D. And he was like, what is going on here? But I'm sure, a veterinary professional understood that that sentence said that the patient was anxious and had vomited on the bed and had 2 instances of diarrhea. Like that's what all of that abbreviation said. So I wanted something that would abbreviate for vet med. So that was also really important to me.
That's awesome. So you mentioned a little bit about the next question that I was going to ask you, which is I'm curious to hear about some of the challenges that you faced as a traveling vet tech. So I know some of it is getting the trust of veterinarians anything else, or, do you want to go into that subject a little bit more and let us know?
Yeah, there are two big challenges that I have had as a mobile vet nurse and a business owner. And number one is getting veterinarians to trust me and refer to me. That can be due to something so far fetched as they don't think that I should be running a business at all, that they don't think that vet tech should have a business, that they have, that we as human adults, people with our knowledge, have no right to try and be entrepreneurs, or they don't trust my integrity or my nursing skills or my ability or whatever, all the way down to they think I'm trying to steal their patients. And that maybe, like, I've had some people say, well, if they come to you and then they like you so much, then you're going to refer them to the vets that you like. And I was like, no, if we're in North Hollywood and you referred them to me, I'm not going to refer them to a veterinarian on the other side of town that I have, that's my friend. Like, no, I have integrity, And there are several things that I am constantly telling my clients over and over again. Number one, I am not a veterinarian. I am not a veterinarian. I am not a veterinarian. I am constantly reiterating. So when they ask me a question that is outside of my scope as a nurse,
Hmm.
I tell them, I'm really sorry. You're going to have to call your doctor on that. Or I take it to a different level and say, I can call your doctor about that and find out for you and help them in that way, because a lot of people don't know how to communicate with their doctors. They feel very overwhelmed, or they feel like their doctor talks super fast or talks in like medical lingo too much. And so they feel overwhelmed. They don't feel like they don't ask the right questions. So I'm happy to do that for them. But
Like,
I
yeah.
tell people I'm not a vet and I recommend back to the vet.
Mm.
So, veterinarians think that I'm just going to do things, that I'm just going to get to a person's house and start, I don't know, I'm going to do surgery in their house. I don't know what they think I'm going to. But really, what I'm doing is I'm going in to do a nail trim. Like yesterday, I went and did a nail trim on a cat. And then I told the client, your cat has irritation and lesions on her chin. So this is coming from something, and I don't know what it is. And you need to talk to your vet about it. And it looks like she may have an ear infection because I'm seeing a lot of debris in her ears. And you need to call your doctor. So I'm advocating for the pet, but I'm also saying, go to your vet. And she would not be doing that on her own. So I'm encouraging people to go to their doctors, schedule a visit, put money in your doctor's pocket, you know, go back to them, support their business. And I mean, it's not exclusive, it's inclusive. But a lot of doctors, I mean, what does vet med hate more than anything?
A lot of things. I don't know. What?
Change,
Change. Oh, yeah. Change. Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Vet med hates change more than anything. You know,
Yes. Yes.
we've been using this drug forever and it works great. I don't want to learn about a new drug. We've been restraining animals this way for 50 years and it works great. I don't want to learn, low stress or whatever it is, even if you prove it, you
Right.
know. We've been passing down cats forever and it works great. I don't want to learn about gabapentin, it's all that kind of stuff. So when they hear that somebody is out there doing these types of things, they push. So that has been my number one hurdle. And my other hurdle has just been letting people know I exist.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because advertising is expensive, especially in Los Angeles. And that is like my number one thing, that when clients find me, and every once in a while when a veterinarian finds me, like for the mobile blood pressures, I just had a doctor say, oh my God, I wish I'd found you like years ago. Why are you the only person doing this? Because I think I'm the only nurse, at least in California, out with a Doppler getting blood pressures and writing a report like the way that I'm doing it. There maybe doctors are sending texts. I don't know, but I think that I'm the only one doing it how I'm doing it.
Mhm.
But usually when clients find me, they're like throwing me a party. They're just so happy, especially when we bring on in the team. So they know that even if I'm not available, maybe one of my nurses is available to give them the support that they need. Be it, I mean, we've been giving eye drops to a dog all week because the owner cannot give eye drops to this little land shark. Land shark, like an e-collar on it, and then put a muzzle on it, and then wrap it in a towel, and then hold it still so that you can give it its eye drops to prevent its eye from popping out of its head again. Um, and
What we do
her,
with living creatures.
I know. And she's this little bitty chihuahua. She's like 12 pounds, maybe. I don't like small. But her owner is over 70 and her owner can't do it. And her only other option was to take her to the ER every single day because
Oh,
they're the ones who do the eye prolapse. And then ERs don't do nurse appointments. So you have to sit in the lobby and hope that someone would take the pet back in between other emergencies. And then they still have to pay. So, these are some of the random things that we end up doing.
yeah.
But
Yeah, these are very real challenges, and I've heard that sentiment echoed by other folks who are vet nurses or vet techs who are entrepreneurs, and just sort of the right to exist being
yeah.
questioned is a thing. And, I think the more I think about it, the more I'm realizing that, what you're doing and what some of our other colleagues are doing as vet nurses or vet techs, having their own businesses, I think that's relatively new in the vet space.
Hmm.
Or, I think it's old as shit, like you said, like it's been going on forever, but like kind of formally packaging it, doing it right, and you own a business and kind of
Hmm.
taking it to the next level. I think that that is relatively new. I mean, 5 years feels like a long time, but it's a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of like the whole profession. And I think it's the tide is turning a little bit. It's conversations are happening. And I try to, make my podcast a place where people can introduce these ideas. And I mean, you're obviously not introducing it to the world. You've been around for a while. But I think
Hmm.
just to give a little bit of a bigger audience and help with not only brand awareness, but concept awareness, like that this is a thing. And I very much believe, like, of course, a vet tech or a vet nurse should be able to have their own business just like
Hmm.
anyone. So, it's very interesting that, people are very protective of their business, they're protective of their clients and their income, and until they know, and they know that you've got integrity, they know they can trust you. I
And
understand the situation you're in, hardcore. Before we close up, I wanted to go in a little bit to what's it like driving in LA for you? I'm also in LA, so I know very well myself, but I'd like to hear your experience.
so I'm in North Hollywood. So I'm in what is still considered the San Fernando Valley, and you're on the west side.
Mhm.
So getting from my side of town to your side of town is brutal. It's something that has to be like calculated, and you have to know what time to go and what time to get back. If I don't get out of the west side by 2:30, I'm trapped over there for several hours. And it's really recognizing traffic patterns and the insanity of like when I was driving around with that mobile internist, we would play a game of like, what's that car doing over there swerving? Is he picking his nose or is he on his phone?
Oh,
Like, is he falling asleep or is he on his phone? And so we'd bet phone or something else. And like 9 times out of 10, it's somebody on their phone. So you have to be really alert. You don't really get a break when you're driving from house call to house call. You better come prepared. You better pack your lunch. You better pack your water. You better like have your snacks handy because if you're going to make a pit stop, it's going to make you late. Don't ever guarantee you're going to be at a house call right on the money. Like, don't tell people you're going to be there at 11. You tell them that you're going to be there between 11 and 11:30 or 10:45 and 12 or give yourself some cushion. Don't tailgate in LA ever. Somebody's gonna slam their brakes on you
yeah.
and make you crash. But when people say, "Oh my god, you drive all day," that is also something to take into consideration for people who are thinking about doing this business. If you hate driving, don't. Don't.
Right,
Don't. If you have
right.
to pee every 2 hours, don't. Like, this is not the line for you. Unless you're gonna, like, do the whole hog where you're gonna have, like, a van, like a Winnebago, and you're gonna
Right.
do that kind of thing. This is not the way to go. But I like driving. I've always been into cars. I used to ride a motorcycle in LA, which is I don't recommend, but yeah, I rode a motorcycle for, like, probably 10 years in LA, and knock on wood, never went down on my bike. And I consider myself to be an excellent driver. So if you're comfortable with that kind of stuff, then it's not that bad. And once you learn how to be an aggressive, assertive driver in LA, you can survive. But yeah, there's also a reason why there's no like branding on my car.
Right.
Because all it takes is that one person seeing you make one aggressive lane change on the 405 and put on like a Yelp review about how crazy insane of a driver, and then they blast you on social media and you'll never get work again. So
Fun times. I'm very much with you on that. So this has been just super fun and very informative. Thank you so much for sharing your insight and your experience about your own business and your philosophy on all the good things. So in closing, can I ask, what is your favorite beverage?
well, are we talking daytime or night?
Either one for each time of day.
Well, being Cuban, definitely coffee. Um,
Okay.
I'm a coffee girl for sure. Latte every day keeps the doctor away in my mind. But on the other side, it's probably always going to be champagne.
All right. I'm a champagne girl too. We've shared some champagne before, if
Yeah.
I recall correctly.
Well, I don't know. I think that vet med survives on alcohol and caffeine. So
Hence why the house called Vet Cafe exists.
yeah,
And why I sometimes call it affectionately the house called Vet Wine Bar. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been really, really fun.
thanks for giving me this opportunity to let people know about my company. And maybe I've given other nurses out there hope that they can do this too. I say this to all veterinarians and all people who are in the vet med business world. There is business enough for everybody out there. You just have to have a dream and really go after it, and you will succeed. So maybe somebody will hear this and know that they can do it too.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Lory.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the House Call Vet Cafe. If you enjoyed this episode, then hit the subscribe or follow button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never have to miss an episode. This podcast is made specifically for you, so don't be shy if you'd like to reach out and let me know your thoughts on this episode. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as The House Call Vet Academy, where I also share more valuable content. If you're interested in learning more about consulting for House Call Vets or the House Call Vet Academy online course and community, please click on the link in the show notes. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I can't wait for you to join us for our next episode of the House Call Vet Cafe.
If you're looking for help with ultrasound scanning, check out First Opinion Veterinary Ultrasound for independent machine reviews and online and in-person teaching options. FOVU, simplifying ultrasound.